All right, welcome back. We're going to do a little bit of Bitcoin TA analysis. Yeah, TA analysis. It's technical analysis on Bitcoin tonight, just to see where things are at after we essentially thought that we might be seeing some resistance and a at least temporary top, short-term top at $73,000. Again, just to recap what we pointed out in previous videos, and I actually think prior to what a lot of other people were even looking at or realizing was $73,000 was right at the 4236 fib level of the 2017 peak. So it makes sense that there would be some profit taking here. But looking at overall structure, we have to start thinking about what's possible in terms of this dip. Now, things have gone so far in such a short period of time that I think a lot of people, myself included, thought that nothing could stop this rally. And it's still, we haven't confirmed anything really. I mean, we're getting a pretty sizable pullback, and all of the bears in social media, on YouTube and Twitter and everything, everyone's calling for a crash, and that was the peak, and we're going back to $30,000 and all that stuff. Considering so many people were calling for this thing to shoot right to $250,000, should have been an indication that we were probably near a top. And we're already getting a lot of people saying that we're going much lower. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Like, we just have to allow this market to, show itself, essentially. But I just wanted to measure some things on this chart because really that's all we can do. We don't really know whether or not this is going to be a short-lived dip. We're still above. I mean, even after this pullback, we're still above $66,000. That could obviously change in an instant, but we are still holding support barely at the tops of the previous two peaks. So there's nothing to really freak out about yet. I mean, so far, just to get a bit of a better measurement here, let's zoom in. Let's see how much of a dip we've gotten so far from top to bottom. It's a little over 12% drawdown so far. I mean, look, like, yeah, it sucks to see two red weekly candles for Bitcoin when all we've done since September of last year, actually, September of last year, all we've done is just gone up and up and up. And we had this one consolidation period of about 2.5 months, where we essentially went sideways. And this is when alts went nuts as well. So, if you're an altcoin fan, what you want to see is Bitcoin find a base and then consolidate for a little while, because that's when things are going to run for alts. But that might not be the case this time. Alts have run so far that I think there's going to be a lot of profit taking. What recently just transpired with a lot of meme coins on the Solana chain, Book of Me and Dog with Hat and all that stuff, like, those are usually indicators. This time it wasn't NFTs. Last cycle, it was the insanity of the NFTs that should have been an indicator that we had reached a euphoria phase and that was going to be it for the market. This time, it might be the Solana chain meme coins, essentially shit coins. That's all they are. They are completely worthless. Serve no purpose whatsoever other than to either make people rich or lose people a lot of money. I personally did not participate in any of it this year, this time around. It's just too much to track. If I would have been in something like Book of Me and would have been even moderately invested and being up as far as some people that I personally know were, I wouldn't have been able to sleep. Like, I would have been watching the chart 24/7. That I it would have been bad for my personal mental health. But anyway, I digress. We're not talking about shitcoins in this video. We're talking about Bitcoin and what could potentially happen. So I just wanted to point out, like, so compare the run that we just went on to the one that we had in 2020. Now, this is sort of a comparing apples and oranges situation, because the run we had in 2020, while it was in line with an expected bull cycle, it's not like we had a bull cycle out of nowhere. We were expected to have a bull cycle in 2020, just as we are right now. The difference back in 2020 was the amount of liquidity in the system because of the COVID stimulus. There was so much money sloshing around. I mean, all anyone has to do is look at the money supply chart to get an idea of... I don't know what happened to my trend line here. I used to have a trend line on this chart, and it appears to be gone. Anyway, so see if I could draw this right here. February of 2020, the U.S. Fed essentially injected trillions. Well, not trillion. Well, it was a little over $1 trillion, I believe, in two different installments. I forget what the total was, but anyway, let's redraw this line just to sort of get an idea. If we look at this, and this is going to be very loose, but back here in May of 1990 or April of 1995 is when we more or less started the trajectory that we are currently on and have been on for nearly 30 years. Okay? In February of 2020 is when everything was shutting down. The world was shutting down. No one was spending money. No one had money. People were losing their jobs. People were laid off. Everyone was stuck at home. Boom, the Fed comes in and prints trillions of dollars. That's what this little blip is here. And this is a monthly chart, by the way. I mean, look at that deviation away from the trend. Now, 4 years later, we are now trending back towards that line, and it's looking like sometime in 2025, the middle of next year, we should be getting pretty close back to that line, to where we should have been all this time. So all of this, all of the haranguing about inflation and how everything seems overpriced and all that stuff, it's true. Like, we are, and this is a separate video. I probably shouldn't go too far down this, but since I mentioned it, I might as well, finish the thought. We've experienced about 10 years worth of price increases in the span of about 4 years. So even though inflation is back under 3% in the high 2%, and the Fed wants it down closer to 2, which some economists now think is probably not possible, and trying to get it to 2% may cause more harm than good. But inflation, as the way it is tracked, is actually pretty darn good. The issue is that the prices of what things cost, like groceries and gas and everything like that, they're not coming down. They will not come down. I run a small business on the side. It's a retail business. I sell products from T-shirts to mugs to all types of gift type items, and the cost of those goods has not come down. If anything, they've stayed elevated, or they've continued to go up a little bit. And that cost has to be passed on to the consumer. Anyway, getting too far ahead of myself, going on a completely different subject. But going back to the money supply exploding in 2020. So there was all this money sloshing around. People just had cash on hand. And that is why, when you come back here to the 2020 run, people were like, I have this extra money. I'm going to throw it in Bitcoin. Let's see what happens. and that's partially what this run was. So you almost have to wonder, and I've been thinking about this a little more looking at this chart. You almost have to wonder, had there not been so much liquidity in the system, would we have actually gotten much over $40,000 or $50,000, like $50,000 max? Would we have actually gotten over that, or would this have been the peak, and then we would have come down, and then maybe picked this up, carved this out, and this would have been more of the next cycle? But the liquidity pushed us up. Then we had this correction, and then because of the amount of money in the system, and I still subscribe to the theory that this first peak was actually the real peak. The second one was a dead cat bounce that actually created a new all-time high, which technically breaks the rules of a dead cat bounce, but you have to take into context, what the underlying factors were. But you look at this bull run up in 2020 and look at these corrections we were getting. We got one here, we got one here, we got a massive one here. Then we got another bounce and a dip and another bounce, and then that's when we finally capitulated all the way back down to $15,000. So the types of corrections we were getting on the way up, like let's just look at this one. This correction was 30%. So we're looking at 12 and a half, almost 13% correction right now on the one that we're currently living through. We're not even halfway there. Like if we got a 30% correction, that would take us down to about $51,000. Now, the ironic thing about $51,000 is that based on the structure, it would make absolutely perfect sense. Because this wick was pretty insane. Then we just continued on. And the fact that we haven't retested down below or even come anywhere near the bull market support band. Let's see. Where is that bull market support band? I don't know if I actually have it on this chart. I don't. I'd have to go back over to my other chart, but we'll pop over there in a second. A correction back down to the low 50s during the course of the summer, when summer is historically, regardless of what's going on in crypto, summer is usually a down period. It's the winter during the summer. It's always happened. I don't think we've ever had a strong summer. I think 2019 maybe. 2019 for Bitcoin actually was reasonably strong, now that I look at this. But that wasn't a bull market. We actually were not in a bull market during 2019. That was actually an altcoin season. Because I remember 2019 was actually when I first bought Chainlink, or somewhere in there. But I'm comparing this structure because everyone's freaking out, even over the most recent correction that we had. Hold on. Let me get out of this. Even this most recent correction that we had, the one that we're currently going through, is, it pales in comparison. We just had a 21.5% correction back in January when Bitcoin tapped $49,000 and then came down to $38,490. It's a 21.5% correction. Like we have to expect that we're going to get these types of corrections. I would expect this correction to probably be in the realm of about it's got to be at least 15%, 15, 16, 19%. Look, I know people hate to see things going down. I'm going to jump back over here to my other chart so I can pull up the bull market support band. We have to have a correction. I'm sorry. Like we really just... Oh, that's Solana. I was going to say. We really have to... We have to cool off for a while. if we really want those $250,000 prices later on, after the ETF wirehouses kick in and all that stuff, we have to cool off. We cannot just go straight there. As great as that would be, we just cannot go straight there. So I wanted to jump over to this chart, and I know this is a spaghetti chart, and it's like lines everywhere, and you're probably like, what in the hell is going on with this chart? I get it. There's a lot going on, but I'm tracking a lot of different theories here, and the only thing you need to concentrate for these purposes are this green squiggly line and this red squiggly line. This little region here that follows up. This is the bull market support band. This is the historical, I actually forget what is this the 100-day and 200-day moving averages, I believe, something like that. I think that's what comprises the bull market support band. Pine Editor, SMA length. Is it 20 and 21? Oh, 20 week and 21 week. So the bull market support band is the 20 week and the 21 week simple moving averages. So as I covered in a previous video back, I think back somewhere in January, maybe it was even before that. I covered the fact how Bitcoin has never blown through or gone through its bull market support band from below it and then not retested before creating a new all-time high. Now, we've already broken that rule because it just happened. We broke through the bull market support band back here in October. Very, very powerful move. I mean, these two weeks are just incredible. What we did here back in October. I mean, it went from 27,000 to 34,000 in 2 weeks. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And then it just grinded up. But we all expected, as it did every single time in history, and I think it's done it 9 times until this most recent run, it's always come down and at least touched this region. If it just would have tapped it, or if it would have had a wick down, or just anything remotely closer to these lines. I never actually measured this. Hold on. Let's see how far away we got. Measure. You know what? Let me see what I'm actually doing here. Somewhere in there. We got about... I mean, it was close, about 3%, depending on where you want to put that. The top of the band we got about 3% from, and the bottom of the band we were about 5.5% from. So, that's how far we came from actually entering the bull market support band. And if we would have just dropped another 2.5 to 6% during this wick down, and pierced through this region and then shot back up, like, all of this structure could remain the same. If this wick would have been longer and at least entered the bull market support region, I think this entire move would be completely justified and validated, and we would not now need or have the need to come down as low as we're probably going to have to go, because we did not clear out and test these regions. Listen, charting and trading is weird. I don't know why assets behave the way they do, but they always do. And, we're always trying to prove new theories and say that this time will be different. Well, you know what? This time it actually was different. But if Bitcoin comes back down and re-enters this bull market support band, uses it or finds it as support, and then goes higher again, then every theory that we've been trading on for the past 14 years has been validated again. So yeah, we'll have new data and something to look back on in the future and be like, well, back in 2024, Bitcoin didn't go into its bull bull market support band, and we had a new all-time high before the halving, and all this stuff happened that never happened before, so we have to take it all into consideration. That's what people will be talking about in 5 or 10 years from now. So looking back at this cycle as indicators for what might happen in the future. We just added another quiver or another arrow into our quiver in terms of, potential future happenings with charting Bitcoin. But I don't really know what else there is to say other than just look at this chart and sort of shake my head and be like, we could still go 10% lower and it's still fine. I mean, the trend line that I'm most interested in, I've got one here, this dotted green line. That's a pretty steep angle of attack. I don't really anticipate this holding. And if it comes down here and touches 63,000 or pierces through and then shoots back up, I won't be surprised by that. The one trend line that I am actually interested in, maybe I should make it a little bit bolder because it's the one that I'm actually watching, is this one. This trend line, which starts with this candle back here in September, which is essentially the bottom of this move. This is where things took off like a rocket. And while it does sort of cut through this candle, like this candle from a technical analysis standpoint makes sense because it's right at the bottom of the body and sort of touches the top of the wick there. But it sort of slices through the body of this candle, which, whatever. Sometimes you just have to sort of... Again, charting and technical analysis is sometimes an art as much as it is a science. So sometimes you have to take a little bit of liberties in terms of trying to figure out what the trend really is. But so it slices through and then it touches this candle here. So we have 3-4 points of contact, which, satisfies that requirement for a real trend. But then you look at it and it's on the same trajectory as the bull market support band. And with the price falling, the bull market support band is finally starting to just curl over a little bit. And I sort of anticipate, let's see if I can draw a really bad line here. What color do we have? We'll just do it this way. I could see something like this where, the bull market support band starts to curl over and actually come back to meet this trend line. And in the meantime, this would require Bitcoin to go down at a fairly steady pace. It doesn't have to do anything violent or... we don't have to get like a 30% red candle or anything like that. But if it just came down over the next month or two into the summer, and then over the course of the summer, midsummer, start finding support along this line, and then in the fall, August, September, somewhere up here, start retesting higher again. In August or September, that would line up with what I would expect. Now, I could also see it come down and then actually go through this line a little bit and then come back above it. But, if it did something like this, in the grand scheme of things, does that really look that bad? Is that really all that? Is it really something that we need to freak out about? I don't think so. People are going to lose their minds if Bitcoin goes under $60,000. You will be seeing so many Bitcoin bears being like, I told you it's crashing. It's like every other cycle. It's just like every other cycle. I don't know why it seems like the bears are even louder this time. I think it's because there's a lot of traditional finance and fiat people now in the space because of the ETFs and guys who are like commodity experts who trade like lumber and gold and stuff like that and have been doing it for like 40, 50, 60 years, and they feel like they know everything and they think Bitcoin's a farce and like they don't understand the space. And they can't wait to see Bitcoin fail. I don't know why. I don't know why they just don't buy a little bit and hope it goes up. I mean, I never really understand the poo pooing of anything. If you could make money doing it, then make money doing it. Trade it a little bit. I just don't understand why people have to be rooting against something. Now I can see if it's a company that you don't agree with or whatever it is, you don't align with a company's values or you don't like the CEO or something like that, or you hate their product, fine. But like something like Bitcoin or gold or silver, or like I don't even really being a crypto enthusiast and loving the space and seeing a lot of use cases for so many different projects, and seeing Bitcoin as a solid investment, going into the next 10, 20 years, that doesn't mean I'm anti-gold. Like, there's a lot of crypto people who are anti-gold. I I get the reason why. I see the case for not wanting to buy gold, but then just don't buy it. I don't own any gold, but I'm also not going to tell someone that you shouldn't buy that. It sucks. Well, look what gold has done over the last 2 months. Let's just look at the gold price. Gold is up. Let's measure this. From the bottom here, back in, just a month ago. In a month, it's up over 11%. I mean, are you really telling me that if you hate gold, okay, fine. Gold's stupid. You hate gold. It's a bad investment. Whatever it is that you consider to be an issue with gold. Are you telling me that if you knew this was the bottom right here, if you knew in your heart of hearts that gold was not going any lower, and you knew in your heart of hearts that gold was absolutely, without a doubt, going to run about 11 or 12%, and you could make that trade, are you telling me you wouldn't have done it? Or, I mean, look at this bottom back here, year and a half ago, October 2022. What are we up now? It's up 36%. Again, if you knew that this was the bottom, a triple bottom, it tried to break this level 3 times. If you were actually watching this and you were like, oh my God, triple bottom, it couldn't break down below this 1610 level, and now it shot up that much, and like that right there is a very, very, very bullish formation. After a triple bottom and then to go up that high, are you telling me that if you knew this sort of action was going to happen, you might not have made an investment? I mean, being in crypto, whatever, the multiples are that much better. But I'm just saying, like, I don't understand I get not wanting to own something. I get liking something over another asset or commodity or whatever it is. But I do not understand the tribalism of it all. I guess it just sort of relates back to politics and everything else we have wrong with our society right now. But just stop poo-pooing gold and silver and oil and all that stuff. Like, there's so many ways to make money in many different markets. Just be appreciative of the fact that we live during a time where you can sit on your ass at a computer and make thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in literally 48 hours doing nothing but watching lines on a chart, watching candles on a chart go up, and watching your bank account go up. We've never lived in a time like this. Like, I don't know. I just don't know what people are complaining about. So looking at current action, it is right now 10:58 on Monday night. Today is, what is today? March 18th. 10:50 p.m. March 18th. Bitcoin just crossed down below 3% for the night. I don't know, man. I would not be surprised to wake up tomorrow morning and see sort of a bloodbath. Maybe even nearing double-digit red. I mean, I'm about 75% out of all of my positions right now. I still have some Bitcoin, but I sold everything else. I do think we have to carve this out. I think we have to carve this out, and I'll actually draw it. Triangle. I think we have to carve out. Let's see. How far down should we have to go? I'll even draw it down to here. I really feel like this region has got to be, well, it's not going to go that low. I don't think Bitcoin's going to go. I think worst case scenario, and maybe I'll do a worst case scenario video, but I think this region right here is what needs to be carved out in some way, shape, or form by future action. So where does this leave us in August? Yeah, I mean, look, it would line up too well with prior cycles. Like, summers suck for crypto. Like, we probably just had a local top. We probably did. And I think that the sooner people admit that, the probably better off they'll be. I mean, it would suck to, wake up in a couple weeks and look at this chart and been like, man, I could have gotten out. Listen, this is not financial advice. Nothing I say here is financial advice. It's your money. You do whatever you feel is right for you, and you trade the way you want to trade. But I'm looking at this, and I just, as bullish as I was 2 weeks ago or even a week ago, as soon as it rolls over, and as soon as the very few indicators that are like, well, when you're in a bull market and everything's green and euphoric and you're like, nothing's going to stop this run. And there's a few indicators that look like, well, this could happen and this could like stop the run, and things could roll over. And those are the things you have to take into consideration, because when they do happen, then you have a plan as to when you might want to get in, or get back in, I should say. And, I don't know where I'll get back in. There's still a fairly decent chance that I'll wake up tomorrow morning and Bitcoin will be at a new all-time high. And then I'll be kicking myself for being out. I could set some sell orders, or some buy orders, I should say. I just want to let, this is a very important weekly candle. We got a spinning top formation. I'm going to delete this triangle just so we can see what's going on a little bit better. So we got a spinning top candle here at the top, and a spinning top at the top of a formation is an indication of a change of direction. It can go higher or lower, but you want to be paying attention to what action is occurring, because that following candle is usually the direction it's going to be going, at least in the short to medium term. Right now it's looking pretty bearish, but we still have until Sunday at midnight to see what this candle actually does. This could be another long leg candle. And if this action, like, let's say this candle comes down to like 65,000, or hell, let's say it even comes down to like 63,000. Let's say it comes down to this weekly break here and touches that as support, and then we get this wick back up by like Sunday afternoon, and then all of a sudden we're back up to like $69,000 about to print a new weekly candle, and that would be bullish as hell. If that happened, we would go from what we're looking at today, down 3%, to on Sunday being like, oh my God, this thing's going to the moon. Maybe not the moon, but, I'm still looking at a formation like this forming. Matter of fact, why don't we copy it and see what it looks like? Let's grab... let's grab all of these candles here. So I would be curious to see if... where are we here? Okay, I guess it did something like that. So, yeah, topped out, comes down to the low 50s, shoots back up. Something like that. That is perfectly within reason. Heck, in this scenario, it doesn't even come down to touch this trend line. I would think it might come close to the bull market support band again, but I don't know that it would get there in that scenario. So, oh man, no one knows. No one knows what's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, if it comes down below this trend line, this little dotted green line here, that's where I'll be. Like if it touches that area, like 62,000, I might add a little bit, tiny little bit of Bitcoin, because that would actually be, that's still well higher than my average. But anything below 60, and I'm definitely looking at some accumulation. But I'm just really, all things considered, I'm just really hoping we come down to touch this bull market support band. Again, as many say, the further away you get from the bull market support band and the longer you've gone without touching it, the harder it will be to find it as support when you do get down to that level. Another thing to keep an eye on, just lastly before closing this up, because this video is way longer than I wanted it to be, is RSI. RSI peaked out at about 88, a little bit higher than 88, maybe 88.4. It looks like we're going to get a cross. I'd be surprised if we did not dip down below. And that's what this formation gave us. We came up, yellow line crossed the purple line, but then purple line got back above. Should probably look at some analysis in terms of what happens when the yellow line gets above 70. Or how long it stays there. But we can get one of these formations as well. We could dip down below like we got here and then shoot back up. And I really think this structure is likely. I just don't know how low we're going to go. Anyway, I could sit here and look at this chart all night and just guess and sort of ramble on about potential price levels and where I would be looking at buying, but that doesn't really do anyone any good. But those are the things I wanted to cover right now, just sort of a broad rambling Bitcoin video, as they typically tend to be. But we'll be back soon when I find something to talk about. There was something I wanted to cover, and now I forget what it was in a future video. Oh, this rising resistance. I'll do this in a separate video, but just to sort of give you a preview, this rising line of resistance. So they're uncommon, but you do occasionally get situations where you have a rising line of resistance, and you typically see these on shorter time frames. You don't usually see them in such long time frames, but we could be looking at just forming a little bit of a cup here. And if all we're doing is carving out this little wedge, carving it out a little bit lower. Let's get closer, touch the bull market support band again. Let's carve this region out. And then let's get back up here at the end of the summer, start testing the mid 70s again. And then, listen, if we are somewhere around creating new all-time highs again in late August, beginning of September, I will be ecstatic. And you will be seeing me in videos saying this thing is, I'll be pounding on the table saying this thing's going to 150. Because I really think if we get that kind of setup, that would be incredibly healthy structure for the chart. And we'll see. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to end it there. Once again, I want to thank you for watching, if you're even still watching, to my handful of subscribers. Thanks for smashing that like button. If you appreciate what I'm talking about and what I'm saying here, if you love the content, give me a follow. Maybe I'll pop up in your feed every once in a while and you'll get to hear me ramble about nonsense. Every once in a while I feel like I make sense and come up with new stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. And in the meantime, happy trading.